What does Rachel Jeanteal have to say to her critics? Just watch. Do you feel, as you said, you talk to your supporters, you feel that a lot of people may have attacked you, but you know a lot of people around the country are standing up supporting you as well?
Yes. And people who are attacking me, they're not in my place. If that was, they gotta imagine if that was them, my age, would they do it? The whole world watching you. So nobody felt how I felt. Day before I testified, I did not sleep at all. Trying to figure out how I'm gonna do this, how I'm gonna do this. Okay, what he gonna ask me? Cause I know Don. When they said hour, I didn't believe that. I had believed it was gonna be 3 hours. It became 5 hours. So I don't understand what people that were saying, oh, why she didn't do this, why she did, she lying. If that was you, would you do it?
You got to understand, testified, and Zimmerman didn't.
No. And people, the whole world judging me. You're judging me. And the person who shot Trayvon did not even testify.
Well, what do you think about that?
That's not a real man. If you were, say, not guilty, you'll come up and tell your story. Right. This what happened. This what happened. You'll just not stand there, just look like, oh, I ain't do nothing. I ain't do nothing wrong.
Do you think there was a cultural disconnect where they just didn't understand? Because what you were saying to me, I understood. I mean, what you were saying, testifying, I understood. People that I know understood. I mean, I couldn't understand what they were talking about. I mean, now, you know, I've always been against young folk, including my daughters, using the N-word and cracker word, though I've used it when I was younger. But I mean, we understood that wasn't trying to make a race statement. That's just the way some of y'all talk, though we kind of tell y'all not to.
Some we talk is our culture. I'm not saying teenagers use it every time. Teenagers use it with teens, but they don't use it with their parents. That don't have nothing to do with the case.
You knew Trayvon. People see him as a symbol, others see him as a caricature, but you knew him. He was your friend. Yeah. Tell people what kind of person was Trayvon.
Trayvon was a laid-back person.
And was he a guy that got into mischief? Was he a guy that you should be afraid of? Was he a guy that looked suspicious? I mean, you hung out with him to some degree.
I want to say Trayvon looks suspicious. If you look at Trayvon, you can know that's a teen. And he was not a violent person, and he was so quiet, you wouldn't notice him. The only thing you would see, he just tall. Right. You just look at his height, that's it. So.
Were you surprised when you started seeing them characterize him in certain ways in the media?
Yes, I felt that was disrespectful to him, his parent. And mind you, that's the victim. He died. He didn't ask for that.
Where were you Saturday night when you heard the verdict?
I was at my auntie's house.
What'd you think? What'd you feel?
16 months. Well, I think 17 months. Work hard, trying to make sure this is a case. Guilty case, trying to show Trayvon was the good guy. Trayvon was minding his own business. 6 jurors, I had told my story, told the fact, and you didn't believe it. You judged my character. You judged the kind of person I am. And I was trying to be honest to you. I kept it honest with you. That's how we talk. That's how I kept it honest with you. You wanted to know what we were talking that night, and you did not take nothing serious. You just listening to two attorneys listening to a person who don't want to stand on the stage where I was standing. So, you say not guilty? Are you serious?
Back with me now is MSNBC contributor Goldie Taylor. Some tried to mock her, but Rachel Jeanteal came across as a strong person at that interview, Goldie.
She certainly did. She certainly did. And to me, she really came across as a strong person on the stand. I think the difference here is really a cultural receptivity, whether or not those jurors were able to identify with her, were able to see any of themselves reflected in Rachel Jeanteal.
Yeah, we asked about the cultural disconnect. Well, what do you think?
Absolutely. And I think that there was a clear disconnect that these 6 jurors could not see themselves in Rachel Jeanteal. They certainly could not see themselves in Trayvon Martin's shoes, but they did seem to have a connection with George Zimmerman. And I think the case really did turn on that.
Now, was language, do you think it has anything to do with the case?
I think language had a lot to do with the case, but I think it was just cultural perspective. I heard, the juror on another network last night say that she kept referring to those people, how they live. She didn't say our collective community, how this part of our community lives. It was never about us and we. It was them. Those, and that's really where the disconnect really sort of showed itself.
Well, is that also why there were those that had raised questions about diversity on the jury? So you had people in the jury that understood the culture and the environment of both the accused and the victim?
Well, I think, and I've heard this said a number of times, that this case may have been over right after jury selection, because you really may not have had anyone or more than one person on that jury that could make themselves have any connection, any cultural connection with or empathy with Rachel Jeanteal, with Trayvon Martin, with Trayvon's parents, with Sabrina Fulton, or with Tracy Martin, that they could not see themselves living similar lives. And so I think that was a real problem in the jury selection, and it permeated itself throughout this trial and has shown itself up, in the statements afterwards.
Goldie Taylor, thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks for having me, Reverend Al.
We're right back with Reply Al and the effort to turn tragedy into action.